Good morning. Happy Thursday. This is going to be a relatively quick video. There has been some confusion expressed to me about the difference between a public official, a public employee, and a public servant. It's fairly easy to explain. Political entities like states, like the federal government, like cities, are corporations. Now, the small-minded will say that means they're a business, they're run for profit. And that's technically not true. Are they run for profit? Well, you tell me. A corporation is an entity that outlives its creators. That's all a corporation is. So a city was created by the people who originally founded the city, and it exists in perpetuity after the death of the people who originally founded it. So new people come in to run it. Great. It's the same city. It hasn't changed. It's a corporation. The same thing with the state. The same thing with the federal government. George Washington is dead. And yet the federal government continues on. Thomas Jefferson is dead. And yet the federal government continues on. It is a corporation. It is an entity that outlasts. It's an entity that is legally recognized to have rights and obligations that outlasts the death of the creators of that entity. There are people in government at the city level, at the state level, at the county level, at the federal level, who have decision-making power. They can make, and when I mean decision-making power, they can make policy. They can make decisions that are going to affect everybody in that political subdivision. For example, a mayor can make decisions that are going to affect everybody in the city. The county board of supervisors can make a decision that will affect everybody in the county. The governor can make a decision that will affect everybody in the state. These are examples of a public official. A public official can make decisions that affect everybody. They have discretion. Instead of following the rules set forth for them, like for example, a clerk at the local county court. That clerk doesn't really make decisions. That clerk has a policy they follow. If you disagree with their policy, I want to file this particular pleading. You can't file that, sir. I want to talk to your supervisor. I want to talk to your manager. Then the manager comes out and, they say, well, this is the policy of the county. If you want to change it, you're going to have to talk to whoever developed that policy. The person who developed that policy may be a public official. And you can kind of hear it in the word public official. It means they probably hold an office. Probably an elected office. A judge is a public official. A sheriff is a public official. Now, police are public officials, but they're public officials because they can kill you. That might sound weird, but they can kill you. They have discretion to do things that aren't reviewable. After they kill you, you can't say, I want to talk to your supervisor. They have been endowed with an amount of discretion, even though they're not making policies that affect entire cities or whatever. They still have been endowed with enough decision-making authority that they can have major effects on people's lives without really review. So they're public officials, kind of as the oddball. Okay? So I just want to be clear. That's a public official. Generally speaking, that person is an elected position, or is at least in a position where they can make policies, rules, things like that affect everybody down below them. It's not your average person who doesn't have real decision making authority. And that's contrasted with a public employee. A public employee might be able to make small decisions, like, I'm going to stamp this now or I'm going to stamp it later, something like that. But generally speaking, they're the low-level workers who don't have decision-making authority. So your clerks, the agents in a social security office, the people who are there conducting the interviews with the people seeking social security. Those aren't public officials because they don't have the kind of decision making abilities that someone down or someone up above them would. Like the head of the Social Security agency, the Social Security Administration, they're going to have a lot more. They can make policy. They're going to be a public official. The person at the window who's the peon, the wage slave, working 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, whatever they work. That's just an employee. And you can see the distinction in how they're dealt with. For example, in New York Times versus Sullivan, the Supreme Court makes a big deal about a public official is going to have a harder time showing actual defamation because people get to criticize them. They're part and parcel of being in politics, in a position where you can be elected into office, is you say I'm good and my opponent is bad. And if you can get sued for saying my opponent is bad, if you can get easily sued for saying my opponent is bad, that's going to have a huge impact on politics, and it's going to insert the judiciary into pretty much every race for public office ever. And so there's that actual malice standard that comes into play. An actual malice standard doesn't require actual malice. It just means that you have to say things that you know or reasonably should have known are false. It's a very hard standard to prove, and it's generally speaking hard to get defamation wins and get actual money out of them because you have to show actual loss. But I'm getting a little far afield. The point is that public officials are treated differently than public employees. There's a reason why courts use that specific language, public official, and they don't say a public employee. And finally, a public servant. Public servant is just someone who works for a public agency, a governmental entity, something like that. Don't read too much into words. Into the word servant, I should say. It's not an official term. It is a term that people have used and in kind of propaganda, either to make the government seem more accessible to you, like we're here to serve you, we're public servants, aren't we nice? You should love and respect your local government because we're public servants. Or on the other side, they're public service, they're servants, they're supposed to do what we the people say. Well, to clarify, they serve the public. The public isn't you. You're a member of the public, but you're not the public. And you don't pay their salaries. You pay taxes, which go to the corporation that then determines where the taxes go to. The corporation sets their salary. The corporation determines when they get a pay raise. The corporation determines their sick days, their holidays, things like that. So they are there to perform a function, serve the public in general, not you specifically. Now, the government has a monopoly on some of the services they offer, and they require you're forced to purchase those services, so they don't have to necessarily have the same level of customer service that, for example, your local supermarket would have to have, where they would have to serve you as an individual to make sure that you don't go to the other supermarket in town to buy from them instead. So if you're thinking along the lines of customer service, that's not really a good metric. They're there to perform a job. That's what it means. They're there to perform a job, and the corporation, the city, the state, the county, the federal government has determined that job is a necessary service for the public in general, not you in specific. So when a cop is arresting you, the cop is protecting the public in general, not you as an individual, because you're the problem. Or at least the officer believes that to be the case. So I hope I've made this clear. I try to keep these short, the actual videos short, so I hope I've made it clear. This is just me sitting in my car. If you think I've missed something, great. Put it in the comments below. Maybe I'll say that, yes, you're right, and maybe I'll just put a heart and move along. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.